Valet, free food. How many know what the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau is? Huh? Not everybody. No, the team member, I'm Bill Talbert, President and CEO of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have bosses. Yes, we have bosses. So one of our bosses is on our executive committee, Carol Ann Taylor, who lives, lives right down, she walked here. She's on the board for a while. She chairs our multicultural committee, so would you give, a while, 50 years. We both had different color hair, she said. So let's give it up for Carol Ann Taylor. Thank you all for coming. This is so important. Looking forward to it. She makes every meeting, so. We've got Ms. Jackson from Eileen Higgins' office, Commissioner. Where are you? Stand up there. Thank you for being here.
Jackson, Commissioner Higgins. Office.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's my dog.
It's very important here. So, well, no, we're a little bit outside of our district, but a lot of
District Halo.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of key infrastructure, tourism infrastructure in District 5. So we're happy to be here. Thank you for having us. And I have cards if anybody has questions or things they want to talk about.
Thank you. Say hello to the Commissioner. I know she's at 10 other events tonight.
Yeah.
This beautiful building was built a while ago. Andrew Goldberg is here. You in the house?
Microphone, big hairy shit.
You want to talk to your flock?
Sure.
Tell us about what a great job the Bureau does in partnership here. Please, remember my boss is here.
What he said. Well, first of all, I also want to recognize Carol Ann Taylor because she also sits on our board of directors. Yes, so thank you, Carol Ann, for being here. Welcome, good evening. We're really thrilled to partner once again with the GMCVB. They've been great partners of ours since the beginning, since before the beginning. And we've done just numerous collaborations over the years. One thing I'll just mention really quickly about this room, which is very, very cool. I don't know if you all know this. This is the Peacock Foundation Studio. And this floor, behind those bars there are mirrors, because this was built as a rehearsal space. And the footprint of this floor is the same size as the main stage of the Zip Valley Opera House, which is very cool. So that because prior to this, when Florida Grand Opera used to rehearse and then perform at Miami-Dade County Auditorium, they would rehearse in their own office space. And they did not have a footprint that was the same size as the stage. So they had to put markings on the floor and then think to themselves, instead of 2 steps, 5 steps when I get to the real stage. Well, they didn't want to have that issue here, so this is the same size. So they can put all the markings in the exact spots that they need to and rehearse perfectly in that way. And same thing for the ballet. So this is a really cool room where a lot of magic happens. So anyway, welcome tonight, and thank you, Bill. Thank you, Rolando.
And thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. This building was built with tourist taxes. Tourists who come and visit. Well, we would say all of them come because of the fine work of the Convention Bureau, right? Right? Partially. So hotel taxes, and I think we're private donations, obviously Adrienne Arsht and Carnival and many others. But I can tell you, we also use this room. You know, we've been involved, the Bureau, in cultural tourism for over 20 years, maybe longer than any convention bureaus around. But our current cultural tourism director, I don't know that Adrienne Arsht Center has understood that John Copeland left and went to the Bureau now, and he's doing cultural tourism. John Copeland. Did he tell you yet that he left?
We're still looking for him.
Still looking for him, okay. With that said, we're also about partners. We have a board in addition to Carol Ann Taylor. Wendy Kalergis, who's the CEO of the Greater Miami and the Beaches Hotel Association, is here. Thank you for being here. You know, we did this about 5 years ago, and many of the things that were brought up in sessions like this became part of what we do. So this is a serious effort by the Bureau, not only for what we do, but what's involved in the community. To show how the community has evolved, the last time, 5 years ago that we did this, we did it in 5 locations. We thought that was pretty good, north, south, east, west, the whole thing. This time, 15. 15. So it's because we have more partners in more areas and more interest. So we think that's good. And if we need to go to 20, I'm not going to say this around the staff more, but we feel really, really, really good about that. I think there are 3 this week.
There are 3 this week.
3 this week. We had 2 that kicked off, and so we're excited. All the Bureau staff stand up that's here, Bureau staff. Let's hear it for the Bureau staff. And I knew this was a ballet. Andrew and I were talking that this was for ballet rehearsals, but part of what the Bureau does is, major part, is book meetings and conventions. This room was actually used by the convention sales team to have a lunch to recruit a group that we ultimately got. The Nurses Association was in here in this room with a luncheon to pitch a meeting or convention. That's the beauty of this destination. You have venues that others don't have. So your Bureau tries to connect the dots and get these things done. It's, it's about overnight people to visit, have meetings, they spend money, they generate the resort tax, and at the end of the day, jobs, jobs, jobs. And that's what it's all about, is jobs all over our community, in our neighborhoods. We've evolved our multicultural program as part of this process. So I'm going to do what I've always said. I'm going to sit down and shut up, but and try to do that. I flew into town from my sister's house in Jacksonville and went over to Uber. Anybody? Uber. I went over to eMerge. Anybody been to eMerge yet? Huh? Well, you gotta get over there. It's really evolved to a wonderful, wonderful event. So I'll get over there. It's all day tomorrow at least, and it's about us as a high tech center, and it is. So with that, I'm gonna shut up. So, Rolando, take it away.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And I'm going to swing around here. And the goal of these sessions, and as Bill noted, there are 15 of these. It's also a testament to how we, as a destination, have grown up. So, every neighborhood has become an exciting neighborhood. Downtown Miami, probably 15, 20 years ago, wasn't that exciting of a place for visitors to come, or even folks to live. But thanks to the efforts of many, including our close partners at the Downtown Development Authority, thank you for being here. Downtown Miami itself has become quite a vibrant community. I've been with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for 23 years. I have the privilege of having a dual role as the Chief Marketing Officer and also the Chief Operating Officer. And the marketing stuff tends to be the fun stuff, but also looking at the organization. Working with Bill to ensure that we are evolving along with the destination to make sure that we are relevant and that we keep becoming the economic development driver that we are. So sure, we're in the tourism business, but as Bill says, we're in the job creation business. We're in the business of keeping local resident taxes lower by generating a lot of economic impact. In fact, hopefully you saw this big number up here. This is $270 million in taxes that our tourists are paying every year. And those taxes don't just go to building great facilities like this performing arts center, but they also go in helping build the new convention center that just got renovated. It also goes into, believe it or not, tourists are paying to improve our transportation infrastructure. That half penny tax that's talked about, tourists are 33% of that tax is being paid by tourists. They're also helping sustain our public health system, because they are generating and spending a lot of money, especially those international visitors that we all love. So there's a lot of impact, so when you do have a chance, you'll notice some big numbers on these boards, and a lot of it speaks to the impact of our tourism industry. So the goal is to keep that momentum going. We've had a great successful run for many, many years, but these sessions are about laying out the roadmap for the next 5 years. So think of yourselves, teleport yourselves to 2024-ish and beyond. So it's great, and in fact this week we'll be talking about last year's number, and we'll have a big event to release those officially, but today is really more about the future. And that future really uses the successes of today as their foundation. Bill talked about the neighborhoods. For us, we love our sun and our fun, and we're world-renowned for our clubs and our beaches, and that'll always be the foundation of this amazing destination. But more and more, and where we spend the bulk of our time, is celebrating and showcasing our neighborhoods. And those are neighborhoods like downtown Miami, could be Overtown, it could be Little Havana, could be, South Beach. All these destinations, all these sub-destinations are fueling our success. So that's where we spend the bulk of our time marketing. People think, all we're doing is talking about our beaches. That is not the case. We're talking about our neighborhoods. We want to spread the wealth of tourism and generate the taxes and sustain the jobs that Bill mentioned earlier. So this process, as Bill mentioned, we did about 5 years ago, and it identified a couple of key priorities. It talked about more international marketing, check, we accomplished that. It talked about renovating our convention center. And as you know, just a few months ago, our new convention center reopened after a $625 million renovation. Headquarter Hotel has recently been approved. One of the key things that last strategic plan called for was further expanding our multicultural tourism efforts. And once again, under the leadership of Carol Ann Taylor and a lot of great partners, we established a multicultural tourism development department, which has been an amazing success. It's about 3.5 years old now, and we're building upon that momentum. So these are a lot of the things that, these plans don't just sit on a shelf. We use these plans practically on a daily basis to help guide our efforts. So while every year we'll have a marketing plan, this strategic plan looks a little further ahead so that our business plans and our marketing plans support the strategic plan. So your feedback, so you heard from Bill, you're hearing from me, and then we're going to be quiet because we really, really want to hear from you. And the way that we're doing that is that we've hired a consultant that you'll hear from in a moment, Intervistas. We went through a several month-long process. We had an RFP. We published the opportunity for a consultant to help facilitate the strategic planning process. And ultimately, we ended up with the best firm that we think can do this for us, which is Intervistas. They've been doing a lot of work in this community for quite some time. They also work with the Miami International Airport on air service development, which is bringing new airlines to our community. And the vast majority of visitors come to our community on planes. So it was a great synergistic partnership with Intervistas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sonia Murray. She's one of the principals with Intervistas, and she'll take us through the framework of this discussion today. But again, I emphasize, hearing from you is going to be critical to developing the roadmap that we're seeking. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Rolando. Hi, I'm Sonia Murray. As Rolando just said, I'd like to introduce our team very quickly. If you could stand up. This is Paul Lamette. He's our tourism expert. This is Mr. Greg Talley. He's our conferences, meetings, and events guy, go-to guy, and also a buyer. Mariel Amelin is in the back. Sorry, new last name I'm trying to get used to. She's a key part of our research and all of our all of the hard work that we do in the field. So very, very quickly, most of you know the elements involved in a strategic plan in general. It's a guide. We're looking out over the next 5 years, but you might be asking yourself, well, why does Miami have to do this? Sort of as Florida was born, people just have naturally flocked here. Well, that is true. You have some beautiful natural assets, you've got great people, there's no question the growth has been amazing, especially in the last 18 years. However, the world is a much, much smaller place, and there are a lot of competitive destinations that are either a non-stop away or a one-stop away. And they are competing on every level for your leisure tourist or your conventions and meetings and visitor. And that's what we have to be thinking about, right? So this plan not only is going to drive tourism over the next 5 years, which has been doing very well, has been growing quite a bit, but it's also going to be identifying new opportunities where we can bring in different types of tourists and visitors to come into this community, spend money, help support jobs. So that's really what this is about. So very basically, we have 6 elements in our plan, and we're going to be going through all of that. We started this project in December. We end in September. And what we want to hear from you guys are your ideas, your thoughts, your creative comments on how we can help identify new opportunities and get through the challenges that are here as well. And so with that, I'm going to hand this over to Michelle, who's going to talk a little bit
I've
about...
got this mic, so if you play clicker over there, I'll stay over here. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Michelle Simmons. I am the local presence doing assistance with the stakeholder and community engagement. And if any of you are laypersons to this process or just to the GMCVB, you may have been like I was years ago, not knowing exactly what they offer us. So you heard a lot of great things from Rolando, but what we're hoping to hear from you is your actual raw and honest truth about this. So if there's something you don't get, there won't be a dumb statement, and we want to hear all of it. We have been going through a process that is kind of composed of several different things. We have interviews and meetings. To this date, we have done 85 plus one-on-one interviews. We have gone to people from all aspects of the community, from government to hoteliers to everybody you can think of, to find out what they think could be done to make tourism better. We also have had several meetings and workshops that have been given specifically for the GMCVB board and their management. And at the very end of this process, which will be around September, we'll have a visioning workshop. 15 town hall meetings. This is number 3 in 15. So if you here know of anyone within this whole county who might be able to attend some of the others, we'll have them in Kendall, we'll have one in Coral Gables, we'll have one on the north end. Please do invite them. 4 focus group sessions. We've had 2 so far. We'll have one for techs and millennials. If you guys have a millennial, I have a millennial. So if you guys have a millennial, we would love to hear from them. And there is such a technical, a high-tech industry that's growing here in Miami that you would not consider. We hear about everything going on in Texas, South by Southwest, and New York, but right here in Miami, a lot of great things are happening. So we have 2 more to go. We have 7 committee facilitations, committees of the GMCVB board, where we actually brought them all in to get their input. Very specific questions were asked, and you'll get some of those questions tonight. And we also have administered surveys. Destination Next, I believe, are we going to talk about that tonight? Not tonight. Okay, we'll keep that a secret. So with that said, we want to also let you know what the process is going to be for tonight. So the town hall discussion, there will be 4 questions that we ask. They're going to be based on what you see on the screen: awareness and brand of Greater Miami, talking about who we are as a city and what people think about us other places, visitor experiences, quality of life for residents, as well as new initiatives for the GMCVB. So if you can think of something that you want to offer to this management and to this organization to grow tourism, we're going to be looking for that. So each question is going to be 15 minutes total. We're going to start with the first one. Are we ready for the first one? Okay, so this is the first question. How can we and the tourism industry help create more awareness of this area, Miami-Dade County, among visitors? So we have 2 microphones, and if you don't raise your hand, we might just put you on the spot. But some of you are talkers, and you'll want to have something to say. So let me give you a moment. I'm going to read that question again. How can we and the tourism industry help create more awareness of this area among visitors? Now, most people, I'm from South Carolina, and every time I tell somebody I live in Miami, they go crazy. Oh my God, you live in Miami? So there's an idea about Miami, but there's some of it's good, some of it's bad. So who wants to take the first statement, question, comment? I've got a roving microphone. Oh, come on. Yes, I see you. Sir in the red. I saw you. Come on. I'm going to hand you this mic, please.
As far as the arts go here in South Florida, it's growing ever since we got Art Basel. There are many local groups who could get together, nonprofits, and put on a show where it's educational for members of the community, it's a teaching experience for the kids, and we have a large amount of retired people here, and these might be things that they might like to do, and we move up in the ratings as far as what seniors can do here in Miami.
I think that was great because I think the overarching theme is it's just for kids. It's just to come and act wild and go crazy and do certain things that they probably wouldn't do in their own hometowns. And I think there is a pocket that's left out. Ms. Higgins, you look like you want to say
Oh, no,
something.
I'm just
I mean,
listening.
Ms. Jackson. You sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody? Who's next? Oh.
How about bringing festivals, music festivals, similar to what Ultra does, but of course catering to different audiences? You know, classical music, jazz, on that scale, on the scale of Ultra.
And just before you start, ma'am, I want everyone to know we have someone taking notes. We're capturing all of these comments that are going to be a part of the development of the plan. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello. My organization is part of the multicultural experience. My suggestion is have that experience when they're coming through the airport and have billboards or TVs showing the different cultures that happens.
At the Riverwalk, or I'm from Chicago originally, so when you're flying in and you see those lights in Navy Pier, let's create that type of moment here in Miami. So where people from the plane are looking. So that's just kind of a selfless plug, and hope for a vision for the future, but something that could be kind of really cool with us.
You know, I'm going to turn it over to this gentleman in a moment, but I did want, you know, you mentioned the Baywalk. And I know my boss, Bill Talbert, emphasizes how historically we have actually underplayed the fact that downtown Miami's on the water. We take it for granted. And that's a big mission for us. We're blessed to have not only great beaches, we have a great bay that fronts downtown Miami, and that's something that we're committed to further expanding. The Baywalk really helps us with this, so.
I'm gonna go out on a limb just a little bit. Love that. And talk about those uncomfortable, testable subject matters that few want to address. We're still in the Deep South. I love it here, by the way. But I would be remiss if I didn't go back and talk about the lasting impressions and the residual effect of the racist policies that plagued South Beach. It caused and evolved into a boycott that lasted a number of years. And we are quick to forget these things, but as we look around the downtown area, in particular the waterfront, I've got to put on your hit list what might be advantageous for the downtown development, especially now that we have 90,000 new occupants. I'd like to know what that demographic spread looks like. I'd like to know who those new occupants are, where they're from, how they got here, where do they work, and what industries do they occupy, because that would tell us a very telling story. On the tails of the disparity study that just came out with the Dade County School Department, where less than 5% of a $585 million budget went to black contractors. You got to say, well, wait a minute. Let's by the way, that's less than 1%. So let's take a look at in a community that's got a 23% black community, less than 1% of contract dollars. So I've got to go on a limb, as I mentioned, and talk about the absence of a particular presence and a national and global perception that we're still in Deep South, Jim Crow separation. And it's right here on the surface, not beneath the surface. And so as you walk through downtown, you go to Bayside, you go to some of the other areas that are big in tourism and the maritime industry, we see an enormous gap that exists. And so I'm going to ask that the issues of disparity spill over into tourism, spill over into the demographic makeup of what's happening in downtown in terms of business, not residents, but in businesses, so that we can begin to address some of these plaguing issues. So if I have to go to New York and I say I'm from Miami and I get the question of, are they still stopping black folks from going to South Beach? You know, there's a whole mystique that goes along with the whole race-based issue that's not being addressed here in South Florida. And I'll stop there, but I think the point is well made, is that someone's got to stop and ask those difficult questions and address the issues of why is it that on the waterfront in Miami, in 30 years, since $93 million of public money was spent, Community Development Block Grant, if I get that correct, that's the money that was used to build Bayside and Bay history of Bayside and Bayfront Park, a permanently contracted black-owned business on the waterfront. And folks, I can tell you very quickly, that's $1 billion that didn't flow back to the communities of Overtown and Liberty City. So when you start talking about crime and poverty, you got to take a look at the policies that are being deployed right here in our city amongst those of us who are the thinking people with the so-called, leadership of the area. We got to take a look at some of the very hard-pressed questions, and I'll close on that. But thank you.
This is going to be the last one for question 1, and then we're going to go question 2.
I'm new to the area. I'm from the West Coast, so I feel like I can sort of speak as a tourist myself, because what I've been doing since I've moved here is exploring around. I actually found that I know and have learned a lot more than my colleagues who are from here, because people who are from here don't necessarily go and take advantage of all the great things there are to do in South Florida. And we just had some visitors from my hometown this last weekend, and so we have our things that we always like to take people to see, and I just feel like there's a lot of really hidden, really authentic things happening all the time, all around, and I think it probably touches a little bit on what this gentleman is saying, and also I'm hopeful later on we'll get to talk more about the multicultural aspects, because there's a lot of hidden gems, let's say, and really authentic things that are happening that might not be covered in a big, kind of more splashy campaign. And I would just really like to recommend doing like Hidden Miami. And, did you know if you go to Little Havana on a Saturday night, you're gonna listen to like one of the best Cuban bands ever, and we were the only tourists in the whole place. It was all local people from Little Havana there. I'm part of District 5 is Little Havana, so I'm pretty familiar with it, and I don't live too far away from there. So it was just really interesting, and it was free. You just sit and you can have a drink, something to eat, and listen to incredible music. So I just think there's tons of stuff like that happening everywhere in neighborhoods. It's not, and of course I love downtown too, and I could go on and on about downtown, but I just feel like there's probably some hidden gems and hidden, really authentic experiences that will help connect people with the realities of Miami, but also, and educate people and bring people together, and also promote, maybe some of these more millennials or more adventurous travelers who don't always just want to do the clubs or the beaches. They want to get a sense of some really cool history and a place that's really different, with people from all over the world living here now. So anyway, that's just one thought.
And it's a great one. So before we go on to the next question, I do want to share with you that our marketing efforts, in fact, our campaign is called Found in Miami, and it's specifically to encourage finding those authentic jewels, because that's what visitors want. They want to go and have those organic experiences. And the great news is that even though we're a relatively young city, we do have many great neighborhoods. And you mentioned a few, whether it's Little Haiti, Little Havana, historic Overtown, the West Grove, South Dade. So we've got a lot of those great jewels. That has been the foundation. I mean, we could spend hours talking about our current marketing campaign, which is based on finding unique experiences in Miami. But and there's momentum there, so we're going to do more of that. And in fact, as I had mentioned earlier, under the leadership of Bill, working with Caroline Taylor, we hired a VP of multicultural tourism, and she's really helping amplify what we're doing. And our commitment is to further expand what we're doing. We were there with H.T. Smith when that boycott, and Bill Talbert and H.T. Smith, our dear partners, we were part of that solution in finding a way. We established the VIC, the Visitor Industry Council, and in fact, in a few weeks, we'll have our annual golf event that will raise money to fund scholarships for African American students in hospitality. So, there's a lot that we're doing, and I don't want to take up too much of the time, but there's more that we can do, and I think that's your point and yours and others. So we look forward to that challenge. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to question 2. What are the best experiences for visitors in the surrounding area today? What is missing or could be expanded? And so let's just think a little bit, because as we really get to know this city and we hear more and more, this is like an onion. We keep peeling back layers of Miami, and there's all this cool stuff. So yes.
I'm in the room at the right time. This is amazing, thank you. When people come here, they think South Beach, and they never leave the beach. And then when they leave, they hear about all the great communities that we have because they're focused on South Beach, meaning South Beach has great marketing. But come across the bridge, experience Little Havana, go to Little Haiti, go into Liberty City, go into historic Overtown. The red buses are great. I just think that food, music, the walking tour of Little Havana is amazing. There's some organizations that do great walking tours. So there's so much, but also looking at the demographics of the people who come to South Beach. What are they interested in? I see a lot of young urban people from New York, and I guess with all the TV reality shows, all the hype about getting to South Beach. And then when they leave, they hear about, oh, I didn't think about the Freedom Tower. Oh, I didn't even go to Bayside. I didn't even go see the American Airlines Arena and run up the steps and take a picture. When my family and friends come to visit, I take them everywhere. We do a drive-by the first day, and then we say we're going to try some food from here. I'm going to take you to South Beach so you can see it. But it's really about introducing them to the richness of why I came here 25 years ago and will never leave. So I'm here today to figure out how I can help and what I can do with my resources to make sure that we are putting out the best and we're including economic development. Because as we touch each of these communities, there's job opportunities, there's businesses that people can come down here and learn and see and duplicate in their communities.
I did want to say that spreading the wealth of tourism is a high priority for our leadership, Bill, our board, obviously Carol Ann Taylor. In fact, to the extent that I mentioned, we actually have a training program in place under the leadership of Connie Kennard, and it's our tourism business enhancement program. So we're working with small businesses in a lot of these neighborhoods. So we want more tourists to go to more places. And once they get there, we want those merchants and those small businesses to be ready to accept them, customer service, credit card, things that perhaps most of us take for granted, but that's something that we're working. So spreading the wealth of tourism is not only good for those neighborhoods, but those visitors can stay longer. So they may be staying in South Beach, but if they can spend an extra day or two visiting some of those great neighborhoods, then that generates a lot more of this economic impact. So that is really, really high on our list. So other experiences that we should be mindful of that will encourage people to discover more of Miami, and of course we're in this downtown area, so it could be downtown centric, but it doesn't have to be. It can be from anywhere. So keep those great ideas coming.
Or what is missing?
Good evening, and thank you so very much for this venue again. I'm Charles C. Scott II, the Director of Outreach for Congresswoman Frederica S. Wilson. It's always a joy to be here, especially amongst friends. One of the things that I will tell you in uncertain terms that we have a lack of in South Florida, especially in Dade County, are children-oriented experiences. I had the pleasure here before last of entertaining one of the developers, senior developers of a major computer application called WAS. And he was the CEO of the company that developed WAS, and he brought his 3 grandsons here to South Florida. And he asked me, where can I take my 3 grandsons that doesn't have adult entertainment or some kind of sophisticated stuff, or just a family kind of entertainment? And I was challenged, even going through the directory of the Great Grand Commissioners Bureau site and other sites that would possibly be a good reference point, to suggest to him, other than maybe a few museums we have downtown this area, and a few, the Piscaya and so forth, so on. It's a challenge to find activities of that kind. And I will tell you in uncertain terms that there are people who do not come to South Florida or experience the tourism aspect for fun because they cannot bring the children to be entertained and have fun. And that's something that we need to seriously look at as the diversity of entertainment and the ages of people to be entertained, as well as the variety of entertainment for those particular kind of kids. Because the attention span of most children are very short, especially because of dealing with a lot of things other than, would be typically look at academic or whatever have you, because they do more video games and short kinds of things. But definitely, I think that's an area that we would definitely look at to go forward here, kinds of entertainment and experiences for children. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I remind ourselves, and I grew up in Miami, and Miami started out as a family travel destination, right? Back in the 20s, when you had the old parrot jungle, you had the old aquarium, the monkey jungle. I know these are attractions that, believe it or not, for the most part, are still around. Some of them have evolved more than others. There are great, I mean, I've raised kids in this community, and many of you have, so there are a lot of great family options. I think that we all can collectively do a better job of communicating those, because the power of that, South Beach scene is so strong that sometimes it overshadows not only great neighborhoods, but also great experiences that you're referring to. So, we've developed, we're the folks that developed the Miami Spice Restaurant Month, and part of the goal of that program, you talk about experience. Food is one way to connect the community and its cultures, and of course music is another one, the sights, the sounds, the flavors. But we also launched a program called Miami Attractions Month, and by doing that, we are committed to showcasing family-friendly attractions. And the great news is that a lot of those great hotels on the beach, they're committed. They have some of the great kids programs. I mean, the Lowe's kids program is amazing. So they too recognize that, all those millennials and even those young hip folks, they're going to grow up, they're going to get kids. We want to bring them back with their kids because they're going to spend even more. So that's a point very, very well taken. Thank you.
So one of the things I think we're missing is, surely everybody comes out to the beach, but what's beyond the beach is what people aren't really taking advantage of. I look at what's happening in Monroe County, as well as what's happening in Broward County: fishing, diving, spearfishing, ocean conservation. All those efforts are huge, and you can see the boats lined up for miles. Not happening here. So I think we're missing what happens past the beach. Is a big opportunity.
Are there any places that you have been where you've said, wow, they're really doing that right? That might come to mind as to sort of something that, where we could help leverage. We have the natural assets, everything you're talking about.
Well, if you just drive down like A1A in Fort Lauderdale, you'll see charter boat after charter boat after charter boat just lined up, big huge signs, the airport, brochures, it hits you. The Keys, obviously, why do people go there? They don't have a beach, but they're doing everything offshore. We've got a great offshore out there, more boats probably per capita than any other place in the world is in Dade County. So obviously we understand as residents how to take advantage of it, but I don't think we do a good job from a tourist point of view.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with what this gentleman just said, and I was thinking more along the lines of tying in outdoors people. For example, you have a lot of tennis players all around the world. We have amazing tennis facilities here on the beach, Key Biscayne. There's a way to market to people. You can come, you can go to the beach, you can play tennis, you can go to Wynwood, you can go fishing. I mean, there's so many activities. But I don't think we do a very good job, just as of yet, tying in the outdoors activities that this city has. I mean, I remember when I moved down from New York City, I would tell my friends, I lived on the beach for many years, I would say, you guys, I can't believe it. 5 minutes I'm on the golf course, 5 minutes I'm at the tennis courts. Come down, it's so much fun. It's not just the beach. And I think there's a way to tie it in. There's also a way to tie in. Well, we all talk about millennials and we love them, but really, at the end of the day, people with disposable income are not the millennials. Where we're going to make our money is really focusing on people who have the money to spend, who are interested in not just the beach. They're interested in discovering neighborhoods like Little Haiti or Little Havana, interested in remaining active. So I think that's something we should really think about. Another idea I had, which I don't know if it makes sense or not, but I know I live right here, and I work on the Miami side, even though I lived on the beach for many, many years. And when guests come to the hotel and they stay with us, they're coming because they want to explore Miami. And I'm wondering if there's a way to maybe connect with the airlines where we can, the majority of travelers are coming by plane. So maybe there's a way for us to really feature all our neighborhoods so that people can see it and can come up with a plan, which is what we do with our guests. We send them well in advance, everything that they can do. So they come in and they already have it mapped out. I'm going to go to Little Havana, Haiti, Little Haiti, downtown, South Beach, Mid Beach. I mean, they have thing For example, you see that Asian travelers are, I mean, the Chinese alone are traveling all over the world, but yet you don't see them in South Florida, I don't think. Now maybe the GMCBB can correct me on that, but you don't really see them in South Florida, and I believe that's because of the image that they have of South Florida, and it's the wrong image. It's dangerous, it's not safe, it's, there's a lot of neighborhoods that you should, again, all around, it's dangerous. And I think we really need to, if we're going to attract the Asian traveler, we need to change the image.
Thank you very
That's
much.
it.
Sonia?
Thank you. My name is Malaika, and I am with a movement called Save It. And like the gentleman was expressing himself in reference to the Black community. And I want to thank Mr. Charles from Frederica. Thank you so much. I tell her that I say thank you for what she did of deferring the Coconut Grove Playhouse. So this is something that if you want children in Miami, Florida, to, whether they're from the community, whether they're from Miami, or whether they're not from Miami, we should start salvaging our theaters to their original state, like the Coconut Grove Playhouse, and stop the gentrification that we have. I mean, the millennials, excuse me, and I'm sorry, no disrespect, but the millennials don't care about historical landmarks. They don't care, so they're not gonna come here to Miami to provide, anything that has to do with the arts, not artificial intelligence or robotic type of art, okay? We're talking about the essential, true essence of art, and which is the true culture, which is what little Haiti is missing, because Chinese may not be coming here, but Dragon Global is here and taking over little Haiti, and we have the Seidel, which is only attracting people with wealth. Wow, we're attracting a lot of people with wealth, but then we're gentrifying, and we have all the Haitians that with low-class income, because this is a classism issue. We have low-class income, Haitians that now are living in Florida City and the Redlands. So, this is something that we need to, like the Black community, and I love the Black community when they talk about Blackness and everything, but please don't sell out, okay? Because you sell out to the very ones that are gentrifying your neighborhoods. And I know that you want your neighborhoods to grow, but you need to think that yes, this is Jim Crow, we're still in Jim Crow, and we need to really stop, like Miami Beach, when we have the situation of Miami Beach, all these kids coming here, and what kind of image are we placing on Miami Beach? Okay, because we have this urban hip-hop thing coming through that is not good. So, and this is a global situation because it's not only Miami, this is also New York. So what are we gonna do with the gentrification while tourism is good and it's for growth? I'm all for growth for Miami. I was raised in Miami since 1968. But are we gonna gentrify the places, And we can give our communities and our children and the tourists, the children that come here touring, okay, as tourists, we can give them the opportunity of going into the playhouse, the Coconut Grove Playhouse, because, as you can see, the Coconut Grove has been all distorted because Arquitectónica has taken over. It's not the Coconut Grove that we grew up in. Charles Avenue, the Black, his history, Bahamian historical section, but they're not there. They're not there. They're going back to where their ancestors were being lynched, Georgia. So I think we should, take a better look at how tourism can come here, but at the same time, please remember our locals. Thank you.
And a big priority for us is the balancing between whether you call it sustainable tourism, so balancing that with the quality of life of our community. So that's something that's going to play a key role as we develop this roadmap.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I just want to say Miami have everything. We just have now. It's important to profit, but at the same time, we have to thinking about how the world is going to be in the next generation. So all of this, I think they have to begin to thinking about sustainability for our children, for the next generation, and for the next world. That's the only thing that I want to say.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening already. I'm Karina Castillo, and I'm from the Miami-Dade Office of Resilience. And I want to kind of reiterate what she just said. We are a hotbed for climate change issues. We are constantly barraged in the media as being ground zero. Miami is sinking, Miami is doomed, Miami this, Miami that. And we actually have some of the leading adaptation and mitigation experts, which are addressing the root causes of climate pollution, and then also thinking about how our neighborhoods are gonna look with sea level rise, with increased heat, with vector-borne diseases. And I think that we have to take advantage of the expertise and really sell us as if everywhere else is gonna go, Miami is gonna be ready. And I may be biased because I work on this issue every day. But we're launching this collaboration with the City of Miami Beach and the City of Miami called Resilient 305. And it's a roadmap on how Miami is gonna not be doomed, not be underwater, not sink, all of the above. And then also, just really quickly, we should leverage the university expertise that we have down here and try and sell that a little bit better.
Thanks very much for that. Just as an aside, we're very impressed with the resilience information we're learning, and we're incorporating that in for sure.
And as the microphone is handed over for the next speaker, the opportunity exists that because we're at the tip of the spear when it comes to resiliency, remember, we're also responsible for bringing conventions and meetings and thought leaders. And this is an opportunity for us to really kind of flex our muscle and quite frankly, fill that brand new convention center and fill our hotels and do it in a way that is serving this noble purpose of which we're at the forefront of. So that's something that we're looking to work with the universities and elected officials to become that epicenter. I mean, let's own it. Let's own it. Let's bring those thought leaders and become the global leader in tackling some of these issues.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Riley, and I just wanted to share what might be a little bit of an outsider perspective for Miami. So I moved here from London 4 months ago and chose this destination from what felt like the world, right? I was living in London, I was launching a hotel brand internationally, I was traveling all across Europe. And my husband's also a creative type event planner. So we were sitting down saying, what's next? And we have some family roots in Florida, but really Miami drew us in. And I just wanted to share a little bit of what it's like from that European perspective. So when I talk to my friends in London, the thing that they can't believe is just the sense of life in Miami. So they talk to me about just the color. They can't believe the color of all of the photos I have of what it's like to live here. They ask me about the food. They sense that there's this flavor, that there's this music. To me, it's all about the senses and that feeling that you get. It feels so alive. And I just want to explain that really is different. I lived in London is a food capital of the world, but you would never rock down a street and hear music the way you do here. And you would never see that sense of, when it's a really good restaurant, it's like a little party outside. Like that happens deep in the bowels of the basements in London. That doesn't happen in a public setting. So I think there is a real sense of vibrancy that ties together the experience here, and I just wanted to share that. And it's a very high level view, but that's a sense I get from friends around the world, that they love the senses of Miami and that they sense opportunity here, and I did too, which is why I'm here.
Thank you very much for those comments.
Yes.
My name is Metra Spatz Coley, and I'm the new curator of the Overtown Marketplace. My company is called The Collective Group, and I'll be hosting the marketplace. I love New Orleans. Don't we love New Orleans? Yeah. Because there's a parade every day. When you walk down the street, they have these little buttons where you can push and you hear about the art. They utilize the financial district at night to have live music activities. I was there and they had a brisket bake-off on the bank steps. Our downtown started sort of dry after 6 o'clock, and we've been struggling to recreate things, and I think there's so many convention-oriented places around the country that we can look at and adapt and tailor. How many people come into town for Calle Ocho? How many people come to town for Jazz in the Gardens? How many of these local festivals do we have that people come from around the world? Are we documenting that? And why can't I have a parade more than on Martin Luther King weekend? Why can't I have the Dominican parade, the Haitian parade? With all this cultural diversity we have, in collaboration with the school system, collaboration with convention and tour, this is a great way to teach inclusive pride, make everyone feel welcome. And what she said about keeping history alive and sustainability, somebody got to build the flow, somebody got to make the dress, somebody got to sell the food, somebody got to buy the food. So if we look at some of the other places where people have conventions at, and look at the assets that we have here, because no one has more to offer than we do. We are the gateway to the world. We speak 144 languages in South Florida. So how can we make sure that we make everyone feel inclusive? People come here to learn. We don't just come here to take vacation. We're going into tech. There's a large economic development. We got hotel brands relocating to have their home base here. So how can we take the best of that we have and look at a comprehensive model of who's doing what everywhere and see how we can implement that? There's no need to start from scratch.
Thank you very much. If there's no more, then I just want to move on to question 3. Just take one more. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Arsht. I'm a realtor, and I also live on South Beach. The biggest problem I think we have is there needs to be a better relationship with the press. When things like a hashtag Florida man is trending, and when you see the results of it, it just kind of scares people. When you see things sensationalized like Memorial Day weekend, like I said, I live in South Beach. I walk around almost every night during Memorial Day weekend and the, spring break. And what's reported in the press and what's happening in real life tend to be different. Things are sensationalized. I can understand why, because the goal of the news station is to make money off of advertising. So the more sensationalized it is, the more people are watching, the more money they make. But they're not mindful of what it's doing to our image. And it's not anything near what they're reporting and what people, yeah, there are incidents. And what happens when you see on Instagram and different social medias, some of that does exist, but overall, it's actually a very good vibe. And I'm sick of the negativity, and I'm sick of people making profit off of it. And I think the relationship between us and the press needs to get better. And if Miami Beach is so good at marketing, sit down with them and find out what they're doing so that you can duplicate it. Because when friends come, they lay on the beach and then they're like, what else can I do? And I'm like, well, there's all these other things, but it's not out there for them to know. So I suggest getting together and doing multi-marketing campaigns where it involves all the different areas and just slam bass and get it out there in the fall and in the winter when people are looking to come here, not just, summer events.
Thank you.
Super, thank you. We're going to switch topics here to quite a different topic. The good news right now in tourism is that it's a really great time to be in this industry. In the last 8 years, since 2010, tourism has dramatically outperformed other economic sectors in the US and around the world. This is boom times in tourism. What you've seen here in terms of the growth, we're seeing literally around the US and around the world. That's the good news. The bad news is that we're starting to see many destinations that are starting to have significant sustainability issues. We're starting to see increasingly backlash from residents that are concerned about too many tourists at certain times of the year. So what we're seeing, and I really do believe very passionately, that the destinations in the future that are going to be successful are the ones that proactively address this issue. And when I talk about sustainability, I look at sustainability through 3 lenses. The first one is economic sustainability. The ability of our businesses to hire adequate workforce, the ability of our workers to find housing and daycare and public transportation. I look at social sustainability, homelessness, sex trafficking, all sorts of issues that have to also be addressed that are sort of compounded with tourism. And the third is environmental sustainability. You know, irresponsible behavior by visitors in many cases, recycling, the whole resiliency thing that you're doing here. So this has become increasingly, in the last couple of years, sustainability, it's been raised a few times here, it's becoming a much, much bigger topic. So the question here is, how do we do a better job in this beautiful destination, this quality of life with quality of place for visitors? What are some of the biggest issues that you see with visitor growth here, and what are some of the potential action strategies that should be considered to improve that situation?
Thank you very much again. You know, that's a very powerful question. If you were to speak with most of the residents of Miami Beach, as I have done, and walked the entire beach and canvassed it for a campaign I did about 4 years ago on the beach, and you get into asking what one, one problem on the beach, is exactly what you just said. It gets to the point sometimes in the year we have residents who know certain events are coming along, they leave their homes on the beach and go elsewhere rather than engage the crowds and the change of life and quality of life issues on the beach. Memorial Day weekend is one of those times. While it's important trying to find a balance, especially as it relates to quality of life versus the kind of tourism dollar we expect to try to make, is because we have a lot of our residents in South Florida are really ignorant to the true impacts of tourism. The typical tourists coming to South Florida from Latin America and the Caribbean come mostly to do business here or for vacations. And we have a lot of the people outside of the hospitality industry don't know how to treat people rightly. There's a lack of courtesy, lack of respect. Folks treat the tourism as if you have to come here. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of the tourists who come here, just like the lady just said, she moved here. And the things that she's literally marketing South Florida onto her friends right now, unintentionally, is the fact there's so much beauty here. But the local residents, just they don't understand the history here, they don't understand the value of tourism to this market. The cruise ship sector is enormous compared to anywhere else in the world. Fortunate for us, we're the Caribbean base in Latin America. That's a destination beyond Miami. And so Miami gets to take advantage of those tourists transitioning from other parts of Canada and North America who didn't come through Miami to go to these destinations and come back through again. That brings a lot of money here as well. But if you were to talk with some of these tourists that I have done repeatedly, you'd find a lot of them find that the kind of way they're treated in going to a local store or a local business is very, very disrespectful. And a lot of them, in fact, If you were listening to the hearing about the airport salary issue about 3 or 4 weeks ago in the chamber, Miami-Dade chamber, and the concern the different employees have of not being able to make tips, a lot of tourists will come through you won't even tip them because the service they're given is not even worthy of being tipped. Unless you're factual. You go into some of the pharmacies on the beach especially, and you want to use a restroom or something, they tell you the restroom not working. These are the kind of things people experience here in Miami. So what I would encourage you to do, and you're trying to find a balance of sorts, and tell people how important it is that we literally engage people in a certain way, would be to educate them in the school systems as to why hospitality industry is so important to the quality of life we have in South Florida, how we can improve upon it, maintain it, make it better for folks to live. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey there. So I live in South Beach, and I think for me, transportation is a huge issue. Anytime that we have a lot of tourists, I think everybody has mentioned that. But I mean, just thinking about how it impacts my daily life, like when I park my car on Friday, I do not move my car until Monday. And I'm not even kidding. Like I park my car, my sister lives in Kendall, I can't go visit my sister over the weekend because I have come back to my house and it's taken me an hour and a half to find parking. So I think that's a challenge. I don't know if there's enough being done to mitigate the transportation issue. The reality of it is that most of the hotels are in South Beach. If we want tourists who are staying in South Beach, because that's where the concentration of hotels are, to visit the rest of the parts of Miami, we have to make it easy for them to come in and out of the beach and not, I think I've had friends that I've had to share them 3 different trolley maps, or 2 different, maps on how to get from, I work at the art museum, so I'm always trying to get my friends to come to the art museum, and they're staying on the beach. And they're like, coming to the art museum is on the mainland, how am I gonna get there? It took me 45 minutes to get to my hotel from the airport. There's just so much congestion, it's hard to get in and out of South Beach. So I think one of the challenges that's impacting residents and tourists alike is the ability to go in and out of South Beach, which, for better or for worse, South Beach is where all the hotels are. We're not gonna build 100 hotels outside of South Beach in the next 5 years. Maybe we are, maybe that's part of the plan. But these hotels are in South Beach, and this is where people are staying. We don't have Airbnb. Airbnb is not legal in South Beach, and so folks have to stay in hotels. So if folks are staying in hotels, they have to be able to get out of the beach, and I think that's a big challenge. So again, I'm a resident of South Beach. I do leave whenever there's a high impact weekend. But I also like the fact, as a resident, that I can walk around and see, I live a block from Lincoln Road. I walk on Lincoln Road, I see so many people from all parts of the world, and that's really exciting to me. Every time my friends come to visit, they say, oh my gosh, there's so much vibrancy, there's so much excitement near your house, and this is really, really cool, and I think that gets them excited as well. So I don't want us to lose that, but we have to make sure that we think about how easy are we making it for these folks who are staying in South Beach, whether they're residents or visitors, to go in and out.
I mean, just for a point of information, a little less than 40% of the hotel rooms in Dade County are in Miami Beach. The gentleman talked about South Beach. It probably means all of Miami Beach. But the majority of the hotel rooms are not on South Beach. 40% of our 56,000 hotel rooms are in the city of Miami Beach. The balance are outside, just for the fact. Great hotels on South Beach and Miami Beach.
And I think what happens with South Beach, there are hotels, but there's limited egress and ingress. And I think that especially exacerbates the issue. I know we've done about how many? 85 interviews, we've done focus groups. Transportation mobility, top of the list. Whether as residents, because we're residents, or even as visitors. So that definitely will figure large. And I know that we have someone from the County Commission's office here, Arlene Higgins. There's a lot of conversation, as you well know, to tackle this issue of mobility in Greater Miami, including, you've heard about the SMART plan. We've been strong advocates under Bill's leadership for creating a direct connection to the convention center, which is in essence South Beach, to make it easier whether you're a visitor for leisure or for a convention here. And I know that's one of the legs in that plan that we're hoping will alleviate and make that a little bit easier.
Our team's going to get a big bonus if we can solve your mobility problems. I just want to make a point on this because we do work in a lot of destinations, and a lot of times when they talk about transportation and mobility issues, the focus is on road congestion. We're finding that parking is in many cases an even higher frustration point than sort of road congestion issues. But right now, really the areas that are really growing in importance of what visitors are looking for and residents is walkability and bikeability. And this is something with counties, with municipalities, from a planning perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, we've got to do a better job in many communities of connecting pathways and biking trails. And I live in Vancouver, and everybody wants to be on the water, just like here, but they've done a phenomenal job in sort of connecting various pathways to make that mobility easier.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Lizette Hassel, and I certainly would agree with the parking and traffic. But I just want to focus a couple of points, if I understand the question correctly. Quality of life of residents, and I'm not going to refer to myself. But if I listen to the audience, certainly the African American community, some of you think that there is disproportionate maybe focus on people with lesser income. So with that said, I just want to put some points out. I live in Miami Beach, and the Banff Museum has sometimes great events, and they're for locals, and they're complimentary. And so why not have that also available for lower income neighborhoods, and maybe also mainland closer to their home. It's their quality of life, and focus on the kids. That's the future of Miami. So that's number one. Florida International University Hospitality Management Program. I mean, listen, it's in our backyard. Let's try to find ways to really stimulate our youngsters that if they want to go in tourism, listen, you can actually get your bachelor's, your master's there. It's in your backyard, make use of it. You've got so many hotels, you can do anything and everything, right? Your parents came here as immigrants, I'm an immigrant, and you can actually move forward and grow. So that's number two. Number three, we all love great food, so why not get a great locally sourced organic food to these children in underdeveloped neighborhoods? I mean, we're in South Florida, so I think it is possible. And then number four, safe neighborhoods. I don't know what tourism dollars can be used, and just make sure that underdeveloped neighborhoods, they also feel safe, that there is less gun violence, and you name it. So I just wanted to take it not from my perspective, but just from a different perspective.
Super. Thank you very much. Bert.
I just wanted to say one thing about mobility. What we noticed is certainly a lot of Europeans are used to taking public transportation. And the feedback we always get from them is that the state, now I will admit I have not taken a bus in Miami, but apparently the condition of our buses are not very attractive for travelers. And they say they don't feel safe and they don't feel that they're clean. So perhaps we can work with the city in terms of trying to really clean up our buses, maybe adding more. They also, again, we're located in Miami, not on the beach. So sometimes just to get to a destination, they sometimes have to change 1 or 2 buses just to get to South Beach or to get to go shopping at some of the malls. So perhaps there's a way for us to look at destinations that are attractive to visitors and make sure that the public transportation is there to connect them so that it's easier for them, and you can also market it. But I wanted to respond back to the gentleman back there that basically was saying that some of our visitors don't feel that they're being treated with respect. I can't speak for that, but I can say that the majority of the guests that I speak to are always amazed of how friendly Miamians are. And they love all the restaurants, they love the colors. I think the lady that lived in England said that, but it's true. I mean, when you travel somewhere and then you come back to Miami, even myself, when I go to New York for a weekend, or to Chicago and I come back, you forget how everything is bright green and white and blue. And I think people see that, so that's great. But in terms of public transportation, we really need to somehow improve our bus system.
So yeah, the bus system is the county system, so it's not the city. And there is an effort right now being undertaken by the Miami Transit Alliance to review all the bus routes, make them more efficient, easier to follow. And we just had a demo today with one of the deputy directors at Department of Transportation and Public Works on a new platform that they're hopefully going to enter into a contract with, where there will be all kinds of, it's a cloud-based platform where they'll be able to use all kinds of data points to improve efficiencies of our existing bus routes, to go hand in hand with this other effort that's happening. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit with our current bus system that will be able to give us improvements in a shorter amount of time without spending a lot of extra money. So I think that's the good news. And I just want to let everybody know about those efforts. The commissioners are well aware, and my commissioner, my boss, Commissioner Higgins, is one of the leaders. She's somebody who's actually rides public transportation daily, and she's actually, we really rely on the buses. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then in terms of helping people get information and the friendliness factor, how can we work on that more? I just like to mention the DDA's program of the Downtown Ambassadors. That's been a huge success for downtown. And I think it's a way that, so maybe something to consider in terms of being able to expand that program into other neighborhoods and areas. It's a huge help to people, both residents and tourists, and it's also a program that helps people get out of homelessness and have employment, and so it's a win-win. So anyway, that's just another thing I'd like to give a shout out to.
So as I transition to this gentleman, I did want to say, we did launch about 10 years ago a customer service training program called Miami Begins With Me. And we focus primarily at the airport, the seaport. Hotels generally do a great job. But we do hear feedback that when you get into some of those neighborhoods, whether it's a pharmacy or even a gas station, that's where I think the service standards start dropping off. And tourists go everywhere. They're spending their dollars in all these small businesses. So as part of our commitment is to expand that training program. I think it also dovetails with our tourism business enhancement program that we talked about earlier. Sorry about that.
I got to stand on this one. So I can look at this audience. It's really interesting to me that the response that came back from this question, it's almost as if I live in a different world. Because I heard the responses about tourism and parking and the difficulties. I interpreted this question in 180 degrees differently, in that the quality and the balance of life translated for me into the opportunity to participate in the boom of Miami's tourism industry. Meaning that from the outside, kind of looking in my neighborhood, Little Haiti, I can look 3 blocks away and see the wealth of South Florida and witness 2 shootings in a night that doesn't make the news. So I say to myself, well, I must live in a different world, because I'm looking at the opportunity, the richness that Miami has to offer. And look at this guy in the back, Bill Telling. I was there when this guy made the Greater Miami Multicultural Visitors Tourism Bureau happen. You made it happen. And I'm suggesting that same kind of richness exists everywhere. But when tourists come here, and I've heard the complaints because we're now developing this area, we hear about the tourism that come and they get to go see a big house, Miami Beach, Shaquille O'Neal's house, but all the richness of the cultural diversity, the backgrounds, the Cubans coming, the Haitians coming and running onto the beach, all those intimate, the cocaine cowboys, all of that history, the richness that comes along through rumors only. It's difficult for a tourist to come and experience that richness. I think we're just not being quite creative enough with solutions. So I would suggest that we champion the solutions, find the ways to address the issues, raise the issues that are the big challenges, right? And then put it out into the world through the media, because I think this lady's right on point. Put it out through the media that these issues, that these these huge challenges have been addressed, and Miami's been smart enough to figure out how to embrace those challenges and then ride the success. Because people want to come and see and they want to have an experience. And so I'll close on that. But again, it was just very interesting to see that the response from the audience came from a very different perspective. But thank you.
My last comment on this, and then we'll go to the fourth question, is one of the things that are really proactively being done to deal with sustainability is a trend called visitor dispersal. So what's happening, and you have tremendous opportunities here with all of those sort of unique, phenomenal neighborhoods and potential unique experiences around the community. Amsterdam is a classic case right now where their central business district is really has too many people in it, residents and visitors, and they're aggressively sort of promoting information, social media, pushing people out to different parts of Amsterdam and even broader in the outskirts. So that's a piece we'll definitely be looking at as well. Visitor dispersal, very hot topic.
Okay, and
Thank
to
you.
wrap up, we have a fourth question that really goes to the heart of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau and what they're here to do. And the question really is, in light of everything that we've talked about tonight and looking forward over the next 3 to 5 years, are there new initiatives or programs that GMCVB should pursue in the next 5 years? You've heard some things about the multicultural effort and how that got started literally out of the last strategic planning process. So part of the question is, based on what you've heard and some of the challenges that we face, are there other initiatives that you think they should get engaged with or involved with that we haven't talked about? Yes, ma'am.
I feel so selfish asking all these questions. Thank y'all. Again, my name is Metra Spatz, and I'm with the Urban Marketplace. Teach me how to market to the tourist for my marketplace. I am bringing together local entrepreneurs, vendors, crafters, people who make items, sell items locally here, and I want to market to the tourist. I have not seen it done like the way that I want to. My idea is not new, but the audience that I want is the tourists. They come in the day before the cruise, or they stay a day later. Tourists tend to go out in the rain because if their time is limited, they don't want to waste it in a hotel. If I market towards our community, we know hurricane season is coming, so we may not come. I think if we look at how to work with the organizations that are doing economic development for small businesses, it will help with sustainability, and it will also help create legacy businesses and sustainability for the heritage communities. We don't want a handout. We want a piece of the pie. I don't want, and I appreciate the commentary and the open dialogue. I want y'all to help us build businesses. I want our children to be able to decide whether they're gonna go to college or buy the building. We don't own Little Haiti, so we can't make any demands. We were not allowed to buy property the way other communities were. So we were already 50 years behind the ball. So help us in an equitable way gain some, not advantages, help us gain equity by allowing those communities, not just Black people, those communities, those zip codes that are struggling to be a part of the solution. Help us make money to take care of our families, regardless of what country we come from.
Great point.
Thank you.
Great. Just a reminder, we are capturing all of this, and it will all feed into the process. Another comment?
Could you please tell us, I'm new here in Miami, and I don't know the GMCVB. Could you please tell us what mission they did and what they...
Who we are?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He told us at the beginning that...
No, that's, and that's fine, and of course, Bill, would you like me to say, or would you?
You got the microphone.
Okay, I have the microphone. Okay, so the GMCVB, the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors, it's a mouthful. So that name, we were born in 1985. And things were very different back in the 80s. I grew up in Miami, so the city leaders working with the Chamber of Commerce in the early 80s. Tourism was doing horrible. Frankly, business overall was doing horrible. The early 80s, this community went through a lot of interesting times, to say the least. 1981, on the cover of Time magazine, Paradise Lost, very famous cover. It hangs in Bill Talbert's office as a reminder of how bad things were. So the community got together and they established two key organizations. We were one of them, the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. The other one was the Beacon Council. They do traditional economic development, but we're in the economic development business as well, as has been noted. So we are a public-private organization. So we're a 501c6, so we are private. We have a board of directors. Elected officials serve on our board. And we work closely with both city, county, and state elected leaders to help drive our mission. But we are driven by a staff of professionals. The hotel industry plays a critical role in developing our programs, our marketing plans, and we're a very open organization. This is just one small part of what we do. Around the room, you'll see, we have advertising, PR, we bring meetings and conventions, we do social media, all the things that you would expect a sales and marketing organization to do. We have representatives around the world in about 52 cities that help us bring more business and help us on the media and public relations. So we're a very, very comprehensive, we're a fairly small organization with a very big footprint. We're probably involved in everything that happens in this community because tourism is everybody's business. Everything touches tourism in Miami. So we are working either directly or indirectly on anything of note that happens in Miami. So, and we do represent all of Miami. When I say all of Miami, we have 34 different cities that make up Miami. So we're the official sales and marketing organization for Miami-Dade County, for Miami Beach, Coral Gables, Hialeah, Doral, Homestead, Aventura. We represent all those cities collectively under one brand, Miami, which, as you know, when you travel the world, it's all, everyone thinks it's all Miami, even though you and I know we're all these great, amazing small cities and amazing neighborhoods. So that give you a quick background. But we also know that we all continuously want to evolve and get better at what we do. So this last question is really speaking to that. Where do you think we can, how do you think we should continue to evolve? I mean, I think a lot of the ideas that were mentioned earlier are kind of already pointing us into some key areas, but this is what this last point, how we as an organization can become even more effective in what we do.
Yeah. So actually, I just want to sort of build, I think it'd be really cool if we were able to do something or create some sort of trolley system or something that would connect these really hotspot tourist destinations. I think we've done a really great job of creating these, great neighborhoods, but like going back to my previous point, it's really difficult to get from one neighborhood to the next. I don't think like the GMCBB is going to solve like Miami's transportation problems. That's really, a big thing to put on all of you. But if we can create some sort of way or some program or something that we can really promote to our friends that are visiting, to tourists, to people staying at the hotels, like get on board this thing that's going to take you to Little Havana and Little Haiti. It's going to take you to the mall. It's going to take you to these places so that instead of having to deal with this very complicated system that we have of bus, now we have the train system, but Uber and all those things that are happening now. Like, what if we were able to create some sort of way to really bring people from one exciting neighborhood to the next in a way that they feel safe? Because folks that are coming from Europe, like transportation to them, like they come here and they're like, oh my God, there's no way for me to get around. Like, I'm so used to getting on getting on the bus or getting on a train or getting somewhere. I can go from Paris to Florence. I can go from all these countries. So I think if we could kind of solve that in a way, I think that would be really exciting.
While we can't wave the magic wand and resolve this community's transportation issues, the one thing that we have been doing is working with some third-party providers. If you recall, not many years ago, this community didn't have any bus hop-on, hop-off bus companies. You know, those double-decker buses that we now see rolling through the streets of Miami Beach, and some do a better job than others. We're encouraging more of that connectivity, and that's a third-party private enterprise. They do it, you know, it's a hop on, hop off. Some of them are doing a decent job, some of them are doing a better job of connecting, and one of the things that we've been doing is incentivizing them to expand their routes and connect places like Little Haiti and Wynwood with Little Havana. But you know, we're stimulating that conversation, but there's definitely a long way to go. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Initiatives. Our city has tens of thousands of restaurants. And an older person like myself, who did 35 years of hospitality work here in Miami, I talk to the people from Idaho or wherever, they're retired, and they ask me where you want to go. I have to ask them, do you have a car? You're staying in the hotel. Great place, Metro's good. You go over, you get on the, Metro's good. You get on the Metro ride and you go down there, and there's a bus or something down there, I think you connect. But I have to ask those kind of questions. So someone here asked the Greater Restaurant Association or whatever it's called, maybe if you put out a packet or ask the staff or even had a laminated copy where you could show people where to go to something, because Metro's is awesome because it's cageless, and so is Vizcaya. Now everybody in Europe has stuff like that, and then there's like the gentleman in the back, stuff for kids to do. That Alita State Park, it's only $7, I think, an hour to rent a kayak. The Children's Museum is across the way. Venetian Pool is an interesting looking thing. Usually a lot of times people from European people kind of like the idea of going to, oh, I'm sorry, that's Coral Gables. Well, it's still, okay, but to go to some of these things, I think if there's more communication, and I know everybody can do that stuff, you know, that Yelp or that kind of stuff. But some people still would prefer word of mouth. Thank you.
Just quickly, I wonder if it's possible to have more collaboration with the cruise lines, because frankly, the only line that does tours to neighborhoods with all of those captive visitors is the Norwegian line. I don't know why the other lines do not do that, but perhaps we could spend some time trying to put that together.
And I think the timing is perfect. You know, we are the cruise capital of the world. There are amazing plans and happening as we speak. In fact, on Wednesday, Bill Talbert will be delivering the state of our industry message at the New World Caribbean Cruise Terminal. The one that you're seeing being built now, that's Norwegian Cruise Lines. Virgin Cruise Lines will be building theirs in the near future, MSC. So there's a lot of activity at the port, and it has been under-leveraged and underutilized. And you know, they look at it as a profit center, but how we can encourage more of those excursions on a pre and post cruise passenger to take in the city that they're sailing out from. And you know, we have a Cruise Miami program that we've had in place for several years, but I think the timing is now better than ever because of all that activity at the port. So that's definitely a tremendous opportunity there.
Great, we have another comment here.
Thank you. If I can mention, do you count Broward County residents as tourists?
Absolutely, day trippers. In fact, you'll hear more about that on Sunday. We get a lot of day trippers that come not only from Broward and Palm Beach, but from throughout the state.
Right. So I live in Broward, I work in Miami, and I know for me on the weekends, I would love to come back, but transportation is tough. I do not want to drive, so I end up taking an Uber, and that's half of my restaurant bill, back and forth, right? So if there's anything that you can do to invite Broward residents, we see them leaving on Friday night to come back to spend their money, subsidizing something, Uber lifts, for example, coupons. That would help me come back and spend more. And then one more thing, I travel back and forth to Orlando a lot now. And within the company that I work for, promoting Miami is what I do as well. And I'm trying to find ways to promote both cities together. It's a great complementary city, so two powerhouses working together could be interesting and a good complement for Florida.
And someone mentioned Brightline, and that's creating an opportunity, now known as Virgin Trains, but it's still not cost effective to the point that you can jump on there quite frequently. But once it connects to Orlando, because they just got approved for that extension from Palm Beach to Orlando, so hopefully in the near future those price points will drop, because it's a little pricey still.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So I live in West Kendall and I work downtown. It's a nightmare. But beyond that, I think that maybe we can challenge the way we think about tourists. Think about maybe the residents being tourists in our own city. There's plenty of places I haven't been. I've lived in Miami since I was very young, so I'm almost a native Miamian. So maybe think of a program that, explore your Miami or things like that, and then one, you're getting the residents to be proud of the area that we live in, and two, it's a way cheaper way to market the city, because then we're going to tell our family, our friends, and word of mouth is cheaper than spending lots of money on marketing.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I'm French, I'm from Paris. So what you say about public transportation is true, but I've been living in Miami since July 18, so it's very, very new. I'm so happy I'm not taking the subway anymore in Paris. I'm so happy that every day I'm going over the causeway and there's a sea everywhere, and I've got to work, and I don't want to go back to Paris to take the subway at least. So I think that transportation is an issue in every big city, so you have the same one as everybody else. And in Paris there is great public transportation, but traffic is awful also, so I don't know what is the solution. I think if you want to have more tourists in areas such as Little Haiti, Little Havana, and all these neighborhoods that tourists don't know about, one of the solutions will be to implicate more small businesses in those areas. The first thing that I did, I'm in the clothing industry, and when I arrived, they gave me nicely a hat at the door. The first thing that I did is look at the tag. It was made in Vietnam. I'm like, we have industry here. I'm making clothes here in Miami, made in USA, and I'm French, and it's made in USA, because it's part of a sustainability thing, but whatever. I think we have, Miami is well known, and you talk about the Beacon Council, and I talk about its network, business network, there's almost a lot of small businesses. So I think if we can, I don't know how, I don't have the solution, I'm sorry, but if we can involve the small business more in Miami, I think residents in Miami will go more to those places than tourists will go more, because they will follow along. Since I live here, I'm doing review on Google Maps, which I never did in France, and I'm local guide. I don't know. I'm like top. I don't know how, but because I like it, and I want people, and all my reviews are in French on purpose, because I want French tourists to go in places where I go. As now I'm a resident here, and I'm proud to be. I love this city, and I think that involving those small businesses can be one solution.
Thank you.
I would be very careful how we should position ourselves with the cruise lines, because I'm back at companies that want to make a profit. I would force them to take a percentage of their promotional money to say, okay, you have a hub here. You need to promote in Miami. And there's no negotiation in this. You have to set aside a certain percentage and promote the city, not just your people coming in to catch a boat and they go to your island and they spend money exclusively on your island. So since your hub is here, you have to set aside a certain percentage of money. And I would very carefully force them to generally distribute the promotional material for Miami and not just develop strategic relationships with certain places that they feel that they're going to profit from. So I don't know, I just would be very forceful on your approach with them and not let them have the advantage of deciding how they want to promote Miami.
Right, another comment.
Hi, I was just wondering if the GMC, well, if the cruise lines and the airport, if they actually reach out to the GMCVB when they want specific things, for example, if they want African dance or they want Brazilian dance, and if so, can we have, like, instead of this big book, it's great, but for it to be more narrow. So if you wanted dance and music, maybe there's a smaller book that you can send to them that has just dance and music. Or if you wanted international foods, maybe there's a book that you can send to them that's kind of streamlined, so that, because this is a lot to look through. And, you know, a lot of people have ADHD, so so just to make it easier for them to find what they're looking for, then maybe some of us that have small organizations can probably benefit from some of this revenue and also bring more tourists in to experience what we're doing, because now there's a more streamlined way of getting to the information.
Thank you. I'm going to turn over the mic in a moment, but the publication that you have in your chairs is one of probably about 30 publications. This is our most comprehensive directory. We do have targeted publications, including a multicultural guide, one on the LGBTQ community, we have one on the fine arts. So we have a variety of tools in our toolkit. And ultimately, our website is kind of our clearinghouse, and I know we have to be also mindful that not everyone jumps on their phone. You know, Data Plans International, those are expensive, and even I have to squint sometimes. So we're trying to use a combination of traditional sales tools. And the last thing is, just last week or week before last, visitor centers continue to play a critical role in getting information out. You know, people thought that visitor centers would go away like the dodo birds, but there's 20, you know, we just opened up, I think we're up to 22 different visitor centers now. We don't operate those. We partner with local organizations that provide the information. And those rack brochures that we've seen for many, those are still a vibrant part of getting the word out. And I know I still use them because sometimes phones don't do what they're supposed to do. So traditional means of communicating information in brochures, big or small, is a key part of our strategy. But I do think the small business component is something that we can do even more of. So thank you for emphasizing that.
I think we had a comment here and then a last
And then I'm going to ask our CEO to step up to the front, and we'll probably wrap it up after the next question or two.
So on the cruise line industry, I just in the last 24 hours read 2 different articles about how not environmentally friendly they can be, and there were no names mentioned, but it was certainly an article in the Forbes. That was one, and there was another, I don't remember now. So because it is also our bread and butter here, oh yeah, there was one cruise line mentioned 2 weeks ago, sorry. I think it would be important if you could speak to them about their image, because it is important that people perceive them that they are doing the right thing. If not, there might be a dip, I would presume. And of course, I think we all want to protect nature, and we want companies that are in our backyard also do that.
Right, and ma'am?
I think I just have maybe one suggestion. Maybe it's already in place. But I'm planning a trip to Berlin. So I thought, okay, I can talk to a lot of my German friends, but maybe I'll Google things to do in Berlin. And I realized it's not that easy And I'm wondering if when international people are planning their trip to Miami, and they Google things to do in Miami, I'm not sure if the GMCVB shows up first, or if Expedia shows up first. And if it does, then it's perfect. And if it does, then perhaps we can have links and we can highlight culture, arts, music, restaurants, neighborhoods, where people can then click, depending on what their interest, beaches obviously, depending on what their interests are, they can then maybe click the next link to take them on to what is of interest to them. But I think the more we simplify, because remember, the average stay in Miami is about 3 days. So what are people going to do in 3 days? Different people have different objectives. Some people just want to be on the beach for 3 days. Others want to explore. We forget that people are not coming and staying. Rarely do they stay 5 days or 7 days.
The international visitors stay 6 days.
For sure, for sure. But the average stay is 3. So we can.
But the international visitors make almost 40%.
Oh, for sure. And we can accommodate, we can focus on those guys and give them all the options that they have based on what their interests are, and make it simple for them to determine what they can do.
So when you do go on to Google, which is so powerful, we have a team that is literally working every day to ensure that we are as highly ranked as possible, but you know, that can change. But the good news is that when you go ahead, and I encourage you, put in Miami tourism or Miami attractions or things to do in Miami, because of our digital team and frankly the investments that we're making, we tend to be one of the top ranked. We also know that other providers, Expedia and others, you know, they do that as well. They do it for different reasons and they have their own business, but we pride ourselves on being the generic, not the generic, the comprehensive marketer of Miami, whether it's arts, culture, dining. So we have a very and events. Our calendar of events section of our website is one of the most popular sections of our website. And that's what people want to do in those 3, 4, 5 days. They not only want to go to great restaurants, but tell me about the events. And the good news, a lot of them are very inexpensive, and many of them are free. So we're constantly making sure that our database of information is as up to date as possible, but also we're making strategic investments through SEO and SEM and all that other good stuff to make sure that we're as high as possible. But with that, I will turn it over to...
One sec. SEO, search engine optimization. Everybody's doing it. You pay for it. If we're not up top tonight, we'll pay for it. We'll be up. Everybody's doing that, and we're doing it too. So we've been into it. Let me just say the following. This is, my goodness, we've had the diversity of ideas, the diversity of folks here tonight. That we haven't seen haven't seen over the years, and this is thrilling. And so there are different opinions, whether it's service, cruises, transportation, sales and marketing, diversity, what we call TBE, tourism business enhancement. But you know, it wasn't that long ago. Think about this, and I'm a positive guy. It wasn't that long time ago, Carol Ann. That long ago, a person would say, I'm from London, I looked up, I wanted to move my family and my business. I could have gone anywhere in the world. We never met this lady. We're certainly going to hire her tonight. So, but I mean, that wasn't that long ago. Somebody never would have said that. Where's the gentleman, the French gentleman? The same thing. A few years ago, nobody wanted to come here. Now the world wants to come here. We're working on how to share these opportunities. You know, the great communities of the world have transportation issues. We didn't have transportation issues a few years ago. You know why? Nobody was here. So we're in sales and marketing. You know, we've got leisure, and we've got meetings and conventions. We've got service. We've got mobility. Cruise capital of the world. $1 billion is being spent of private money, unlike any place in the world, on these cruise terminals. And we're going to work on these issues, the pre and post and all that stuff. But we have a great future ahead of us. We're going to take all of this. I guess we've got 17 more to go. But I'm very encouraged by what I'm hearing, the diversity of the ideas, some of the consistency of the ideas. Yeah, we've done stuff. Can we do more? Absolutely. So I'm feeling real good. But London and Paris. The world wants to come here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And we want you to be part of that. So any additional ideas, please, there's an email. You can email additional thoughts to strategicplan@gmcvb.com. And this website, destinationmiami.org. If you go onto that webpage, you will see updates of our efforts. And again, that'll be a couple of months in the making. You'll also see the listing of additional town halls. We have 2 additional this week. If you want more, you want to share more comments, tomorrow we're going to be...
Intercontinental Doral.
So we're going to be in the Doral area. Does anybody know where the Doral is? Does anybody want to drive to Doral? Okay. But we're getting out there, and then on Thursday, we're going to be at the
Miami Beach
Botanical Botanical Garden. So 6 to 8. If you want to join us again, share more thoughts, ideas, criticisms, we're open to all that. So thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause for our feedback. Thank you. And please, take some more bites and drinks on the way out. Thanks again. And thanks to our host from the Adrienne Arsht Center.
How long are you going to stay there?